Well, welcome. My name is Matt Bird, and I'm speaking today about an outbreak of the spirit of enterprise. I remember as a teenager at school, lots of my friends used to get up very early in the morning to do paper rounds. And whether it was winter rain and snow and ice or the summer heat, they would get up at the crack of dawn, get out and cycle up to the local newsagents, pick up their bag of newspapers, and then head out to deliver them in the local neighborhood. Nowadays, I love getting up at that time, but it didn't appeal to me much back then. And so I thought, how else can I earn myself some extra pocket money? My father used to work at I won't name them, but a large global chocolate manufacturer. And one of the great things about working for a business like that is there is a staff shop. And he used to buy chocolates. And once a week, he'd bring some chocolates home. And I said to him, Dad, any chance you could buy me a whole box of chocolates? And that's exactly what he did. And so one day, in my sports bag, I went to school with this box of chocolates. And at break time, I opened my bag, took one out and started to eat it. And before I knew it, there was a swarm of other classmates around me saying, where'd you get that? Can I have one? Can I buy one? And within 5 minutes, I'd sold every chocolate bar in the box. And every lunchtime thereafter, every break time, I would go to school with a box of chocolates. I remember I paid 4 pence a bar for them. I sold them at 10 pence a bar. It was quite a nice little markup. But that was my very first experience of enterprise, of making something out of nothing. And it's my understanding, actually, that the Bible is full of enterprise. And there are so many things I could talk about today. But I just want to read what I was reading myself in my time on my sofa, reading and praying this morning. And I want to read from Acts chapter 3, verses 1 to 10. Because for me, the Bible is full of what I call economic empowerment. It's not full of making people rich, but it is full of economic empowerment. And I'd like to read these verses and then say a little bit more about economic empowerment and enterprise. So here we go. We're in the book of Acts. Loads of people have turned to Jesus. There's been Pentecost and all of that. And in chapter 3, it says, one day, Peter and John were going up to the temple at the time of prayer at 3 in the afternoon. Now a man who was lame from birth was being carried to the temple gate called Beautiful, where he was put every day to beg from those going into the temple courts. When he saw Peter and John about to enter, he asked them for money. Peter looked straight at him, as did John. Then Peter said, "Look at us." So the man gave them his attention, expecting to get something from them. Then Peter said these famous words, "Silver or gold I do not have, but what I do, I give you. In the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, walk." Taking him by the right hand, he helped him up. And instantly the man's feet and ankles became swollen. He jumped to his feet and began to walk. Then he went with them into the temple courts, walking and jumping and praising God. When all the people saw him walking and praising God, they recognized him as the same man who used to sit begging at the temple gate called Beautiful. And they were filled with wonder and amazement at what had happened to him. Wow, what a great story. But as I read that story, I'm struck, you see, because this man sat there day after day with loss of dignity, begging for a living. And as Peter and John approached, he obviously looked at them and longingly and asked them for help and begged. And Peter caught his attention, looked him in the eye, and said, "Silver and gold I haven't got, but what I have, I give you. Be healed in Jesus' name. Walk." And he walked, and he jumped around praising God. Now, this for me is a healing, which the New Testament is full of, but it's also an act of economic empowerment. You see, because that man who sat begging for a living every day, living off handouts from other people, suddenly was able to work for a living. He was physically healed and economically empowered. And throughout the New Testament, we read of Jesus healing people. Lepers in those days were estranged from society. They lived in ghettos, forced to live outside of the main community, away from their families, segregated. But when Jesus healed lepers, he not only healed them physically, but he socially included them, because these lepers were able to return to their families, and he economically empowered them. Now they no longer need to scrape around in the scraps of food left by other people, but they could earn a living. They could go to market, they could grow goods, make goods, and trade. And this is what I call economic empowerment. In those days, there was no social welfare system. You know, if you were poor, you were poor. If you're homeless, you were homeless. But so when Jesus came, he was rescuing people. As he healed them physically, he was rescuing them from a life of extreme poverty, of begging. And he healed their bodies, and they were able to go to work. And so as you read through the New Testament, it's a big story of people being lifted out of their ill health and inability to work, able to earn a living, enough to live well and to be generous to others. That was the whole point. And I really believe at this time of the pandemic, the worst of the pandemic is yet to come in terms of the economic impact of all that's been going on. I mean, this week in the United Kingdom, 100,000 people have been recorded having died from COVID-19. It's unthinkable. But the economic impact of all of this on closed business and people who've lost their jobs, that is yet to come. And so I believe at this time, it is so important that we see an outbreak of the spirit of enterprise within the church, that we see Jesus once again economically empower people, because there isn't enough money in any charity or in any government to give so that people don't need to work. We actually need the gift of enterprise and entrepreneurship to break out in the body of Christ, so that we can see people with ideas and creativity come up with new ways to glue society together and to create the jobs, the sustainable jobs, and to stimulate the economy that is going to pull us through and lead us out the other side. So I would love to get a little bit practical with you guys and talk about three things that I think are really important about being an entrepreneur. The first is that business, enterprise, is about transformation, not transaction. So often business is seen as a way of simply earning a living, or for some, to generate enough to be generous to others. But business is so much more than that. Because as we read from Acts, actually being able to work lifts somebody's dignity. It transforms their life. It transforms the life of their family. It transforms the life of their community. So actually, work isn't a matter of transaction. It isn't a matter of working to live, but it's recognizing within work that it is our work is an act of transformation in society. It's about creating societal value, market value, sustainable jobs, and economic stimulus and growth. Some of you may have read the article that I wrote in the Times newspaper on Saturday, and I'd love, if I may, to read it to you, as I think it's very relevant in communicating the essence of being transformational in our enterprise rather than purely transactional. As the pandemic continues, we need an outbreak of something more powerful than a virus, the spirit of enterprise. It is time for new business enterprises that create value and jobs to replace the hundreds of thousands being lost. We need initiatives that can create social glue, capable of bringing the disparate parts of our lonely and isolated society together. As a follower of Jesus, my go-to place for inspiration is the Bible, which says, "Remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you the ability to produce wealth." Clearly, wealth creation is a gift of God, not a gift of capitalism. The word wealth, which has come to mean financial abundance, derives from the Old English word weal, meaning wellness and well-being. True wealth is not simply the sum of our cash and assets, but it is also the relational capital in our communities, our families, and our society. This is the essence of the Hebrew word shalom, which means peace, harmony, completeness, welfare, and prosperity. God's gift of wealth creation can unleash untold levels of human flourishing and thriving. The faith-driven entrepreneur movement explains, we believe that business has God-given power to transform nations by creating jobs, generating prosperity, and catalyzing human flourishing. It's an entrepreneurship that is not driven by selfish ambition and greed, but rather of compassion and a desire to benefit all. Cinnamon Network International, the charity which I'm the founder, has been busier than ever during the pandemic, supporting social entrepreneurs to scale community impact. Our partners in the UK are opening community listening ear centres. In South Africa, thousands of face masks are being produced to protect key workers. And in Australia, they are training volunteers to reduce the tragic growth of domestic violence. Cinnamon is supporting these social entrepreneurs to replicate their approaches, to save others having to reinvent the wheel. In the UK, the number of companies formed in the second half of 2020 soared compared with the same time the previous year. According to the Office of National Statistics, there are more than 13,000 companies being formed every week, compared with 11,000 during the same time the previous year. While high street spending is down, we are seeing the at-home market grow. At-home medical testing, sports equipment, education platforms, family entertainment, and food and wine experiences are rapidly growing. These market changes are not temporal, so initiating a new enterprise now will build benefits for years to come. As the old saying goes, necessity is the mother of invention. Let's innovate, launch and grow, rather than pause, retreat and retrench. Maybe you have a creative, enterprising or innovative idea, an idea that could be deployed to create wealth and well-being in your community, across our country and around the world. From my experience in coaching entrepreneurs, the greatest barriers are self-limiting beliefs. We might think that our idea, resources, or experience are too small to come to much. God is in the habit of taking the little we offer him, such as the boy who offered Jesus 5 small loaves and 2 fish to help feed a crowd, and making a lot out of it. On that occasion, the crowd of 5,000 people were fed, and there was more to spare. At other times, the resistance to our idea may come from those we try to get on board in the early stages. It may be an angel investor, strategic partner, or board member. Recently, a friend reached out to someone with a powerful idea. They were pushed away with the response that they weren't taking on anything new until after the pandemic. I can't help but think that it could be slightly a longer wait than they think. It's actually the spirit of innovation, creativity, and enterprise that will help to pull us through this pandemic. Let's overcome our feelings of self-doubt and fear of rejection and failure, and instead dig deep in our reservoirs of hope, determination, and compassion. Now is the perfect time to launch a venture. There is no shortage of human need and opportunity for all the people, talent, technology, and financial capital required. Let us unleash the spirit of enterprise to create livelihoods and well-being, true wealth, and shalom. You see, enterprise is transformational, not transactional. For me, business and enterprise is about kingdom transformation in society. It's not simply about the exchange of goods for money and earning a living. So the first thing is, enterprise is about transformation, not transaction. Secondly, I wanted to say that enterprise is about innovation rather than invention. You know, in your own mind, you may be thinking, but Matt, I haven't got a world-breaking invention. I haven't created the light bulb or DC current or a smartphone, or you haven't created and invented something radically different. And I couldn't possibly be an entrepreneur or enterprise. But what I want to say actually is that enterprise is mostly about innovation rather than invention. Most enterprise is not about having a world-breaking idea for a service or a product that nobody has ever thought of before. It's a bit of a myth. The majority of people who go into business, you see, aren't inventors, they're innovators. They take something that already exists and they develop it and they tweak it and they improve it. So much so that they can present it to the market, they can present it to their customers as if it were a new product. And I would argue that a 5 to 10% improvement in any product or service is basically creating a new product or a new service. Enterprise is more about innovation than invention. You don't need to be an Albert Einstein. You don't need to come up with a historic, groundbreaking invention to enter into enterprise. You can come up with something fresh by taking something that exists and improving on it by 5 or 10%. During lockdown, I actually launched a new business. I mean, I didn't say at the beginning, but I lead Cinnamon Network International, having founded it in the United Kingdom, now supporting cinnamon networks to develop in 10 countries around the world. And we help churches transform communities through community non-profit projects. And I lead Relationology, where I coach leaders to build rewarding and profitable relationships. And during lockdown, I've pivoted it and I run online Relationology masterminds, coaching people. I run a writing my book course, having published more than a dozen myself. I'm now helping a dozen people this year become published authors for the first time. And something completely new is rebottling. This is my new business. There we go. It's a beautiful box, presentation box. It's like receiving an iPhone, but instead of an iPhone, it's actually 3 bottles of wine and an eat treat. There are so many wine clubs out there. I mean, during lockdown, I joined many of them to try them out and to understand what they were doing. And you could say, well, Matt, why start another wine club? There are so many. But what we've done is created an innovation of the wine club. You see, instead of receiving a brown box on your doorstep with some tasting notes thrown in the top and joining a Zoom call with a boring PowerPoint for an hour to an hour and a half, and believe me, I've done them. And some of them send the wine in plastic bottles or chemistry lab bottles. I mean, it's crazy. So we decided we would innovate the wine club. So we decided we would present outstanding wines in a presentation box. It's an amazing corporate gift for a friend's birthday or an anniversary or a thank you, or to treat yourself because you're bored of being stuck in at home. It's a great gift. But we also innovated. We moved away from wine tasting to wine experience. We want it to be an immersive experience. And so for each issue, we partner with a restaurant, their sommelier, their chef, their pastry chef, to include wines from their list and a little eat treat. So this next edition I've shown you is in partnership with Paul A. Young. He's a master chocolatier, and we have given him 3 wines, and he's making 3 custom chocolates to go with those wines. And so we broadcast a live event when people can engage with us in a high quality video broadcast. It's amazing. So we've taken the wine club, the boring old wine club, and we've innovated it. I would say we've actually done far more of an innovation than 5 to 10%. I mean, I think we've turned the wine club on its head. And this is what I mean. You see, enterprise is about innovation rather than invention. Rebottling isn't a new invention, but we have innovated and taken an existing offering, and we've transformed it and improved it and enhanced it through innovation. So don't worry about being a mad, crazy inventor. You don't need to wait to come up with some historic thing to become an entrepreneur. Take something that already exists and improve it by 5 to 10% or more, and you have a new product or a new service. So firstly, enterprise is about transformation rather than transaction. Secondly, it's about innovation more than it is invention. And thirdly, it's about soulmates rather than going solo. And what I mean by soulmates is building deep relationships with others. I, for years, have tried doing business on my own, but actually, it's so powerful to have a business partner, someone that you trust deeply and they trust you deeply, to go into business with a partner and to build a team. Nothing in life we are meant to do alone. We're meant to do it in partnership with others. And it's just so important not to go solo when it comes to enterprise. None of us have all the skills and experience and expertise that we need to be an entrepreneur alone. We need other people. We need soulmates. Do enterprise as a team, not enterprise alone. It's so, so important. There are days when you feel like giving up, moments when you don't know what to do. And just having a business partner to turn to is so, so important. So these are 3 bits of practical advice from me to you, things that I've become more aware of during lockdown. One is enterprise is about transformation, not transaction. We are called to business. We can be as transformative as business entrepreneurs as you can as pastors. In fact, I would argue more transformative. Secondly, that enterprise is about innovation rather than invention. Take something, improve it, make it better, and launch it to market. And thirdly, enterprise is about building a team of soulmates, not going solo. It's so easy to think that we have to do it, but you can engage people in so many different ways. You may not have the cash to hire people. Get a business partner, go into a venture together. If it's non-profit, find volunteers, engage suppliers, find flexible ways, use freelancers, find flexible ways to engage a team so you're not in it alone. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to encourage you to be enterprising and to be an entrepreneur, whoever you are. I think all of us are created in the image of the greatest entrepreneur in the world, the one who made something out of nothing, who ordered the world and structured the world and filled the world in 6 days and then had a day off. We are made in the image of that creative, innovative, entrepreneurial God who made something out of nothing. So I believe all of us have that within us. Just since this Times article was published on Saturday, I've launched a campaign, a collective called the Spirit of Enterprise. And we're building partnerships with people around the world who want to encourage the God-given gift of enterprise and entrepreneurship. And we want to back entrepreneurs with coaching, with connections, and with capital. We want to provide coaches to people who are starting off and don't know quite what to do next. I need someone to coach me and guide me and advise me and help me. We want to provide and signpost people to lots of amazing providers around the world who can do just that. Connections. I mean, getting started in business, you need to know an accountant, a printer. There's so many different people that you need to connect with, depending on what you're going into business to do. But you need to grow your relationships. And so we are going to create ways for people to connect online through online cafes and social media groups to create connectivity. Because as the relationologist, I believe the true currency of business is relationships. And then thirdly, we are going to develop capital. We are going to find ways to get capital from investors to entrepreneurs to help them kickstart, to help them grow and scale their business. We would love to help you on the journey of becoming an entrepreneur and launching an enterprise and growing that enterprise in order to add value to society, to create sustainable jobs, and to grow the economy in your community, in our cities and in our nations and in the world. This is the time for an outbreak of the spirit of enterprise.